Okay, and we are way behind, and I am sorry. I did tell the manager, I said, we're going to record tonight, we're going to record tonight. And then we just get so worn out. Or I do.
Yeah.
Okay, chapter 21. Vacation was approaching. The schoolmaster, always severe, grew severer and more exacting than ever, for he wanted the school to make a good showing on examination day. Did we say that was Festus?
Yeah.
Yes, we did. Festus right there. What'd I say? At least examination day. His rod and his, what is F-E-R-U-L-E? Feral?
I guess so.
What does that mean, Lynn? Ann?
Wait, spell that again?
Feral.
His rod and his ferrule
F-E-R-U-L-E.
were seldom idle now,
Mom?
at least among the smaller pupils. We had that word before. Mom's outside, baby. Go around. Go.
We got so
Go
many,
out.
like...
Yeah, it's okay. Here's my little one. Oh my gosh, now smaller pupils. Only the biggest boys and young ladies of 18 and 20 escaped lashing. Mr. Dobbin's lashings were very vigorous ones too, for although he carried under his wig a perfectly bald and shiny head, he had only reached middle age, and there was no sign of feebleness in his muscle. As the great day approached, all the tyranny that was in him came to the surface. He seemed to take a vindictive pleasure in punishing the least shortcomings. The consequence was that the smaller boys spent their days in terror and suffering, and their nights in plotting revenge. They threw away no opportunity to do the master a mischief, but he kept ahead all the time. The retribution that followed every vengeful success was so sweeping and majestic that the boys always retired from the field badly worsted. At last they conspired together and hit upon a plan that promised a dazzling victory. They swore, and the sign painter's boy told him the scheme and asked his help. He had his own reasons for being delighted, for the master boarded in his father's family and had given the boy ample cause to hate him. The master's wife would go on a visit to the country in a few days, and there would be nothing to interfere with the plan. The master always prepared himself for great occasions by getting pretty well fuddled, and the sign painter's boy said that when the dominie had reached the proper condition on examination evening, he would manage the thing while he napped in his chair. Then he would have him awakened at the right time and hurried away to school. In the fullness of time, the interesting occasion arrived. At 8 in the evening, the schoolhouse was brilliantly lighted and adorned with wreaths and festoons of foliage and flowers. The master sat throned in his great chair upon a raised platform with his blackboard behind him. He was looking tolerably mellow. 3 rows of benches on each side and 6 rows in front of him were occupied by the dignitaries of the town and by the parents of the pupils. To his left, back of the rows of citizens, was a spacious temporary platform upon which was seated the scholars who were to take part in the exercises of the evening. Rows of small boys, washed and dressed to an intolerable state of discomfort. Rows of gawky big boys, snowbanks of girls and young ladies clad in lawn and muslin and conspicuously conscious of their bare arms, their grandmother's ancient trinkets, their bits of pink and blue ribbon, and the flowers in their hair. All the rest of the house was filled with non-participating scholars. The exercise began. A very little boy stood up and sheepishly recited, You'd scarce expect one of my age to speak in public on the stage, etc., accompanying himself with the painfully exact and spasmodic gestures which a machine might have used, supposing the machine to be a trifle out of order. But he got through safely, through cruelly scared, and got a fine round of applause when he made his manufactured bow and retired. A little shamefaced girl lisped, Mary had a little lamb, etc., performed a compassion-inspiring curtsy, got her meed of applause, and sat down flushed and happy. Tom Sawyer stepped forward with conceited confidence and soared into the unquenchable and indestructible "Give me liberty or give me death" speech with fine fury and frantic gesticulation, and broke down in the middle of it. A ghastly stage fright seized him. His legs quaked under him, and he was like to choke. True, he had the manifest sympathy of the house, but he had the house's silence too, which was even worse than its sympathy. The master frowned, and this completed the disaster. Tom struggled a while and then retired, utterly defeated. There was a weak attempt at applause, but it died early. The boy stood on the burning deck, followed. Also, the Assyrian came down, and other declamatory gems. Then there were reading exercises and a spelling fight. The meager Latin class recited with honor. The prime feature of the evening was in order now, original compositions by the young ladies. Each in her turn stepped forward to the edge of the platform, cleared her throat. I need to do that anyway. Held up her manuscript tied with dainty ribbon and proceeded to read with labored attention to expression and punctuation. The themes were the same that had been illuminated upon similar occasions by their mothers before them, and their grandmothers, and doubtless all their ancestors in the female line, clear back to the Crusades. Friendship was one, memories of other days, religion and history, dreamland, the advantages of culture, forms of political government compared and contrasted, melancholy, filial love, heart longings, etc., etc. My dentures are going. I need to have these store-bought teeth adjusted. A prevalent feature in these compositions was a nursed and petted melancholy. Another was a wasteful and opulent gush of fine language. Another was a tendency to lug in by the ears particularly prized words and phrases until they were worn entirely out. And a peculiarity that conspicuously marked and marred them was the inveterate and intolerable sermon that wagged its crippled tail at the end of each and every one of them. No matter what the subject might be, a brain-racking effort was made to squirm it into some aspect or other that the moral and religious mind could contemplate with edification. The glaring insincerity, thank you, of these sermons, boy, Mark Twain's full of this highfalutin vocabulary, of these sermons was not sufficient to compass the banishment of fashion from the schools. I'm out of practice. And it's not sufficient today. It never will be sufficient while the world stands, perhaps. There's no school in all our land where the young ladies do not feel obliged to close their compositions with a sermon. And you will find that the sermon of the most frivolous and the least religious girl in the school is always the longest and most relentlessly pious. But enough of this, thank goodness. Homely truth is unpalatable. Let us return to the examination. The first composition that was read was one entitled, "Is This Then Life?" Perhaps the reader can endure an extract from it.
14 minutes.
Okay. In the common walks of life, with what delightful emotions does the youthful mind look forward to? Some anticipated scene of festivity. Imagination is busy sketching rose-tinted pictures of joy. In fancy, the voluptuous votary of fashion sees herself
Rotary. I don't know. Oh, well.
sees herself amid the festive throng. Glad I didn't say thong.
I
I just said it.
The festive thong.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wrong.
The observed of all observers, her graceful form, arrayed in snowy robes, is whirling through the mazes of the joyous dance. Her eye is brightest, her step is lightest in the gay assembly. In such delicious fancies, time quickly glides by, and the welcome hour arrives for the entrance into the Elysian world. Elysian.
Elysian.
Hannah. I've seen this. Elysian. Elysian
Elysian.
Elysian.
Elysian. You're right. Okay.
world of which she had such bright dreams. I hate to show my ignorance. How fairy-like does everything appear to her enchanted vision. We can't all be as bright as Mark. Each new scene is more charming than the last, but after a while she finds that beneath this goodly exterior all is vanity. The flattery which once charmed her soul now grates harshly upon her ear. The ballroom has lost its charms and the wasted health. An embittered heart, she turns away with the conviction that earthly pleasures cannot satisfy the longings of the soul. Oh, we're past. And so forth and so on. There was a buzz of gratification from time to time during the reading, accompanied by whispers of how sweet, how eloquent, so true. And after the thing had closed with a peculiarly afflicting sermon, the applause was enthusiastic. I skipped a word. Okay. If y'all are following along, then you know what it is. And it's a totally benign word, but in this day and time.
Then arose a slim.
Then arose a slim, melancholy girl whose face had the interesting paleness that comes of pills and indigestion, and read a poem. 2 stanzas of it will do, thank heavens. A Missouri maiden's farewell to Alabama. Alabama, goodbye, I love thee well, but yet for a while do I leave thee now. Sad, yes, sad thoughts of thee my heart doth swell, and burning recollections throng my brow. For I have wandered through thy flowery woods, have roamed and read near Tallapaloosa's stream, have listened to Tallahassee's warring floods, and wooed on Coosa's side Aurora's beam. Yet shame I not to bear an orphan heart, nor blush to turn behind my tearful eyes. I'm almost done, but 'tis from no stranger land I now must part. 'Tis to no strangers left I yield these sighs. Welcome and home were mine within this state, whose vales I leave, whose spires fade fast from me. And cold must be mine eyes and heart and teat, and when dear Alabama, they turn cold on thee. There were very few there who knew what teat meant, but the poem was very satisfactory nevertheless. Next appeared a dark-complexioned, black-eyed, black-haired young lady who paused an expressive moment, assumed a tragic expression, and began to read in a measured, solemn tone. I must stop there because my brother just came in, and I'm sure he would like a comfortable chair, and we're over time. And we'll still be on chapter 21, and we will be at this gal that just came in, this dark-haired, blah, 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 who is going to be reading
A Vision.
Thank you. Bye, y'all. What do we say? Be sweet and don't be ugly. Festus says it too.
Yep. Bye.